Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another show. Um, what I want to say is two particular headings to two particular songs. Lord, take me to the river and bring me the mountain that is going to start getting this vision going for the money. Because I'm starting to get seriously desperate, and I know exactly that a time is coming where the world will eventually end. And I don't care what anyone else says about climate change. This was prophetically put in the Bible, where basically it said, you will know the times and the seasons. And we are in the time and the seasons of the second coming. But I know for a fact it's not going to be for a few years yet, because we're not right at the death. And I want to end up saying to people, folks, this vision is going to save your life, because it is literally going to start where people will know exactly what an employer is supposed to do, because we will be doing exactly what the employer should be doing but doesn't in the world right now. Because let's be honest, I've tried getting into work, and I've tried when I've come in last, and they keep on saying, oh well, you're the last one in, you're going to be the last one we're going to ask, even though I'm showing the positivity to go and do something. So technically, when I'm there being an employee to an employer, that's what I'm getting. Now, some of you are living quite comfortable, more than likely, and you know, this vision actually needs to get started, needs to get sorted out, needs to be dealt with. And what I'm needing to say is I'm trying to say things that people may understand, but yet I'll say things quite encrypted that people still won't understand, because I can't go in to that much detail so much yet. And it's quite upsetting that I can't go into so much detail. But I will announce, as soon as this vision gets sorted out and we start getting to serious apostolical figures, and I do mean apostolical figures, because when I say something, I mean it's going to happen. It's not, oh well, it may happen, or this, that, at all. I'm being told it's going to happen. So when the vision gets up and going, it's going to take a few months, possibly a year to 14 months to get that kind of money I'm talking about. Because if I was to try and get it through my investments, it's going to take anywhere up to 12 to 14 months. Now that's serious. And I'm going to be talking about 12 trillion in total to 12 African nations. That's £1 trillion a month. £1 trillion a month. That's approximately 13 trillion a year. Because the way I do my yearly figures via my investments will not will not have a 5-week month in them. So, 52 weeks, divide 52 weeks by 4, that's 13. If you times 12, that gives you an extra month spare, which basically you cannot do in what I'm trying to do. We're talking about serious things here. I don't come on to videos and say, well, this is going to happen, without any intentions of anything actually physically happening. When I said about the farmers in America, in Australia and in the UK, that will happen. And when that eventually happens, even those alone, after 12 months, after that 13 month period, right, because we would have to be working everything in the 13 months. We can't work it in the 12 that the United Kingdom presently works it in. And when I basically say every person who comes and works within the vision will be paid every 4 weeks. That's 13 times a year. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. Obviously, when we have our restaurants, when we have our church will literally be making up to anywhere in the first 6 months, anywhere up to £1 trillion. But we wouldn't be that far off. We'd be a few billion off. But so what? You gotta be a few billion off from £1 trillion. Now what I'm going to say here is, when we get the first 6 months over and the church is actually physically built, what I'm hoping and expecting is that we'd end up having 5 million people in every worship program, which would be 3 times a day still, and we'd end up having 5 million people in there then, and what we'd end up doing is by getting that dealt with, we'd end up then having it on our own private channel for COF, which will be the church brand, which will be bringing in that extra money. We are hopefully expecting to add anywhere between 5 to 10 million extra on that church platform. So, we could end up getting anywhere between 5.25 billion for 6 months, every day for 6 months. That's an awful lot of cash, by the way. We'd be getting about 147 billion in a month. So in 6 months, we'd be getting primarily almost £1 trillion there in 6 months, and we wouldn't have the church properly built, and we wouldn't be able to go into it till about month 8. So we possibly end up having another month outside while everybody is preparing the church, the lighting, getting the sound properly, because it's not going to be concert music. You know, there are many churches being accused of having music that loud that you feel as if you're in a bloody concert. We will have it loud enough for everyone to hear, considering there is 5 million people going to be in this church. And when it's empty, it's going to be quite a bit louder. But when 15 million people are going through that one church in one day, bringing us just over £5.25 billion, and we are possibly having 10 million people, 5 to 10 million people extra watching per episode. That's going to be 15 million people watching per program. Now, even when I am in that fellowship, asking them for the tithes and all that carry on, we won't physically end up seeing exactly how much money there is. We will give an approximate amount of money. And since it's now starting to rain, considering it's slightly cloudy with the sun there, so we're having sun showers at the minute. You know, we're talking about 15, anywhere between having the 5 million people in there for a day watching online. You know, so and that could be literally for every 3 for each show. So we could be literally physically talking about 15 million people bringing in total £15.75 billion per program, per worship program per day, because it will have to be 3 times a day, 7 days a week. You know, it's going to be in a position where we could be literally physically earning nearly 16 billion pound in a day. Now that will literally push it over the trillion for the following 6 months, or for the following 5 months. But what we will do, and I promise this on oath, because if I promise something and God has already said that I have to do it, He's going to remind me that I've got to do it. We will also have it in such a way where we will end up having on a yearly basis, when that particular church basically got started. Let's say, for instance, we were doing it from day 1 and the church was in that first 6 months was actually physically being built. We would end up having to add that money that we had to spend on the church to build it into the profit and loss. Now, basically when we put in a profit and loss, it's not going to go to the taxman, right? I don't think anywhere. I don't think we'd have to go directly to the taxman, because we would end up having to say that we are a Pacific charity, but we're not a charity. And then we're going to have to explain, well, how can you be a charity and not be a charity? Because I don't believe charities are correct in this modern world right now. Because who benefits? Who actually physically benefits from a charity? And that's the answer I'm going to find out. Who actually physically benefits from a charity? Because over the past number of years, every charity, even Christian Aid, has been called out for numerous little issues, and basically saying they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing the other. Yet then they're having shops, right? Shops. Whoa, hold on a minute. Shops. You end up as a charity having to pay rent. And when the first idea of charities were that you ended up having to get anything that anybody was throwing away and bring it into the charity, and then you give it out second hand, that's not happening. It is happening, but it's not physically happening like it used to be, because now you can get new stuff in, and I am completely and utterly against that kind of attitude for a charity. For that to be a charity, it's completely and utterly wrong. It's a business. Christian Aid now has physically become a business, and yet they're getting away with not paying tax. You know, if I'm, other than my staff, by the way, other than the staff, i.e. the stewards, the security, the band members, the worship leaders, any worship leader or pastor or apostle or whatever comes to my fellowship, to the church that God built for me, then basically that is going to have to be orchestrated as paying people's wages. So in a manner of speaking, yes, it would be a business, but it's not, because I'm not taking anything out of it, right? And I'm the CEO of that particular church, or would be the CEO of that church, and I would be taking nothing, and I do mean physically nothing, out of that church, even if it was to make anywhere between 1.5 to 5 trillion pound a year. I would be taking nothing out of it. You know why? Because I would end up having other businesses making me money. Not just the investments, but businesses making me money. And I would end up having my investments making me serious money, which would basically mean is I'm not poor any longer. Me not being poor any longer, when I'm earning possibly 2 trillion from investments alone, and when I'm making something like I would have to put it this way by saying it would have to be divided by 100. So basically that would have to be 1.7 billion. I'm going to basically say it's going to be something like about 17 million pound per day out of one business. So that is going to be an awful lot more cash that way. And the worm farm, I would be making money out of that. I'd be making money out of the eggs when we eventually get it up and running. Out of the farms, I'd be making money out of that as a wage, because I was a fool. Well, I was a person who set it up because I knew for a fact that was exactly what needed to be done. So that is what I'm talking about here. I would be on primarily an awful lot of money per year then, and my investments would outstring everything, literally outstring everything. Because if I'm making anywhere between 2 and 10 trillion in a day over a month, I'm making some serious money just off them alone. And then I can do all my own little private projects and bring them under the business. They won't have to buy in because they're already there under the CEO, me. You know, they'll be very much under the CEO, which is me. So basically, all I would have to do is sign entry into the business, into the overall business, or wherever it is, over to the mainstream business, and then I would end up signing from the mainstream business the acceptance. But with that being said, that would also have to go under the solicitors too. So that would end up coming under solicitors watching over what I'm doing physically with these little private businesses. And then I'd be earning more money again. It would be absolutely ridiculous. I could be the most wealthiest person in the world today when this all happens. And that's where I'm going to finish this session. So bye bye for now, until the next video. Bye bye.